Welcome to the Just Call It podcast, one of the best podcasts to exist. In my podcast, I've been asked plenty of times, what is it that I talk about? What is it that I say, that I seem to speak of? Now, I have only 60 episodes compared to some podcasters that people listen to. They have over hundreds of episodes and probably in the thousands, like Joe Rogan. And I just always get asked that, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been thinking about it a lot, man. And I've been thinking, man, what do I tell people, you know? How do I explain it? Because I'm pretty modest, you know? I don't know how to explain it, how to tell people. It's different. And I think as a podcaster, it's good to talk about it to everybody and kind of give my piece about it. So that if people really are curious about what I talk about and what I mean by it, they understand. My podcast is called the Just Call It podcast. Now there's 3 words before podcast. It's called Just Call It. Now Just Call It just became to be the podcast name because myself and a friend named Caesar, who used to be on the podcast, or at least I think about 5 episodes, he'd be with me, I think 8, maybe even 10. We made a couple podcasts and he had to move. And, I kept the podcast going and we just couldn't keep it going from a distance, right? And, I'm at, 63 episodes at this point with this episode. And I want people to understand what Just Call It means. Just Call It means to just call it the way it is. To see it how you see it. And don't be too indifferent about it. Don't be too mysterious about it. It's pretty much black and white. Just calling it means you just call your own shots. It's kind of like, it's the theory that if you have inspiration, then you come up with the procedure to get it done and then you do it. Now, I want it to be the exact opposite, where you actually do something and that creates motivation. See, that's actually a psychological, that's an actual psychological thing people do to get out of ruts and depression, where you basically, instead of waiting to find inspiration to do something, you actually just do things such as making your bed or doing dishes or making dinner. You do things in order to just keep the momentum going of doing things, and therefore you will eventually get back into the momentum of going back into the groove of doing things that was keeping you inspired, right? There's times where, or even years, where people are like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing right now in my life. And just calling it is finding a way to just calling it how it is, to find a way to get out of it. A lot of people deal with a lot of depression and a lot of bullshit, and whether people don't talk about it or not, this is kind of my way to talk about it. It doesn't really have any anonymity or being anonymous in a way, but people who know me, they know me, and the people who don't know me in the podcast, well, you don't know me. Now, people lately probably like, hey man, we don't got no Instagram, but still the Facebook, and I kind of want to stay away from doing any of that social media, even though I know it's the exact opposite of getting your name out there in a podcast. So eventually there will be another Instagram, and probably more social media and stuff, but I want to do it in a more professional manner where it's more kind of managed by somebody who's actually does that for a living. So if anybody's listening to this, hit me up. And to be honest, man, like, I want people to get out of the things that I feel that I've gone through and still go through this to this day. I mean, I love a lot of podcasters and a lot of people who are out there who are like, why would you do a podcast where it's about inspiration if you're not even inspired yourself, And I'm not trying to fake anything. I'm pretty dead honest on my podcast about who I am and what I go through. So, there's plenty of other podcasts that talk about my personal things, but where I'm trying to get at is that we find a way to get out of the shit that we're doing. So with doing action, that therefore creates a reaction and hopefully a momentum of actions following after that, and following up to get inspired and going back on track on the things that you really want to do. Now that's not my original idea. I've been watching a couple of YouTubers lately, and I wish I could shout them out and whatever, but they are really good. So I was just watching that lately, and there's a lot of stuff out there to be inspired by. A lot of professional YouTubers, amateur YouTubers, or novice YouTubers like myself, that talk about inspiration. But there's some people who talk about it in depth with such great videos and all that, yada yada yada. And so that's what I want people to understand when they come to the podcast of the Just Call It podcast, that they remember that it's Just Call It, because we just call it like it is. We see it how we see it, and we're going to do what we have to do to get it done. Sometimes shit's hard, but sometimes when we keep our priorities straight, we somehow get our things more simply focused, and that's the goal. You can't get anything done at the present moment if your mind is thinking about 8 other different things at the same time. You should be thinking about 8 different things at the same time at what you're doing in order to get it done quicker. If your mind is thinking of things that you can't even do at that present moment, why even think of doing that shit at the present moment? You can't even, if you're thinking about getting groceries and you just started your day at work, what are you doing? Come on. You should be thinking about multitasking at that very moment in order to get whatever you're doing done at work, just because you want to get out, or maybe because you want to put more time in and get more quality time in doing research or things that you're trying to artistically do, or if you're an entertainer or a social media influencer or something like that, you want to be able to not get so out of focus. It's like being an entertainer. I was listening to this on the David Lucas podcast, where he's fishing with Duncan Trussell, and that's a great podcast, by the way. Check it out. And it's just crazy how, as an entertainer, you really do have to inspire yourself and get yourself hyped up from everything that's going to happen. That's going to happen on the show the next day, and even that night, when you're going to perform. If you're going out there not feeling good, or going out there trying to do just bare minimum, but you're thinking about, goddamn, like, I got to go back home, or shit, I got to do things after this, like, damn, I don't want to do those things. You can't focus at the present moment, and therefore, how are you going to even be doing anything successfully in what you do every day? You're just going to be doing everything crappy, and on top of that, you're stressed. So it's better to just get things going. Stop focusing so much on 10 different things at the same time that have nothing to do with what you're trying to get done at the present moment. And that's what Just Call It is, man. And I want people to understand that. Now, moving on. Welcome to the Just Call It podcast, everybody. We're sitting here on a beautiful night. It's a beautiful night. February 16th, 2023. Just 2 days after Valentine's Day. Valentine's, not times. I know a lot of people say Valentine's Day. That's me. But it's Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, okay? My mom says Saint Valentine. Like she's like trying to be Catholic. Like I don't know if Valentine's like is an actual real saint. So if he is, hey man, respect to that guy or gal. I don't know, Saint, Saint Santo, Santa, Mary, like a saint woman, right? UFOs, man, being spotted. Just think about that. Being confirmed by the United States as object they cannot describe. Now, a lot of people would jump into those are exactly UFOs, but they are saying they have no way of describing what this thing was. And you know what? I think it's just a fly that's just stuck in the camera. Nah, I'm just kidding. It is crazy to think about. If these really, like, if they can't describe what these objects are, but they know they are not of this earth because of their properties and their qualities that they have, that they're doing things that are engineerically, and it can't be explained with any human technology that we presently have to this day. They're like, there's no technology that exists for anything to move that fast and nimbly through the sky, and UFOs that rise up to 60,000 feet in the air and then dropping down straight near to the water, but only getting about 50 feet above the water. You're talking about 50 feet to 60,000 feet, where commercial airlines fly up to 36,000 feet. You're talking about UFOs that are being spotted by Navy F-22 pilots, man. People who are seeing these damn things in the sky, taking shots at it. They can't describe what they are. They're getting glimpses of it. They catch it on radar, though, and they can't explain it. What can it really be? Should you jump into the conclusion and say it's out of this world, but it's unexplainable? How do these things come in and out? How are they penetrating the atmosphere undetected and coming in hella like smooth like butter and just randomly just being there? They must be from here. They must be nearby somewhere. I mean, you're just talking about a little ship they say is the size of what? It's just big as fuck, right? Okay, it's a big fucking ship. Probably the size of a building, right? It can't be any bigger than that. Size of a 60-foot building. Let's just say. Biggest fucking building, like Independence Day big. Independence Day, when that fucking ship's sitting above the White House, but it's so fucking big. It's so big, it can't even fit in the widescreen. It can't even fit in the movie theater. They purposely like cut it out, like, haha, let's make this huge ass ship that's so fucking big you can't even see it. That would prove that the earth is actually flat. There should be like some shit off, like they should see the wing on the other side. It's just like kind of high, just kind of looking like it's circumference or something. But yeah, man. One day, there will be footage that is undeniably true to be UFOs. Unless that exists, one day somebody will capture perfect and awesome, clear, crystal clear, freaking HD iPhone or Google, like fucking straight up 60-minute clip of a UFO somehow in the camera lens, just straight up, like in definition, seeing the pilot inside of it, like unexplainable, and then they straight up just vanish, and then it proves that its technical ability is alien, and it just totally fucking takes off. That'd be the only way for us to have undeniable proof that UFOs are coming to Earth. Now, if that's even the case, and they're just showing up, and so-called be it, they've been coming since the dawn of man from ancient aliens in Houston, freaking History Channel and shit. They've been coming since the dawn of man, and even supposedly interfered with the DNA of chimpanzees and shit. If that was even the case, we would have much more substantial evidence that UFOs truly do exist. Much more substantial, fucking straight up in your goddamn face evidence. Or there has never been a time where it's been recorded, because the fact that people have no cameras, right? But now we do. We're coming into a generation where people have fucking cameras. And one day, one fucking day, somebody will upload a fucked with video by the government. It'll be uploaded on Instagram and shared slowly. That way, funnels through people. People still see it. They got copies of it and shit. They put it on a podcast. And then the fucking government tries to shut it down. But I'm telling you, one day there will be perfect fucking footage of a UFO just popping out. And it will happen. But it's going to be unexplainable. And we're definitely going to be extremely confused. Because it's really not going to make any sense. The government is going to either have to come out and explain everything else, or we're going to be confused. But anyways, moving past that, I believe that there is some type of thing out there. I don't know if you would want to call them UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call them. Unidentified people, ships, land. This could be anything. We don't know. I don't know. But I feel like every time we see it, it's always something really stupid looking like George Jetson type of fucking ship. Okay? Like shiny ass silver ship like it was in Star Wars Naboo, and it just looks like something we would imagine in our goddamn minds. So I just can't believe something that we imagine here and probably made in movies is up in the sky, and we have no clue what the hell it is. It has to be something that is on this earth. And some of the descriptions of these UFOs is pretty crazy. Clear orb, a black cube, and it has a clear orb around it. That's fucking crazy. A ship the size of a cross with a Tic Tac floating above it. Now the Tic Tac was the 46 feet long, so that big ass ship was big. And that one was saw off the coast of San Diego. Now who would know that a cross would be floating up and down San Diego, which is like one of the most biggest Latino communities. Of course, a freaking Catholic cross just going up and down, getting drowned inside the water. Yeah, man. I was thinking, a lot to myself lately, and it's like, people try to fight, depression and shit, and a lot of that shit leads to suicide, And if you really fucking think about the suicide thing, unless you're somebody who's actually experienced it with a family member, I really apologize and do want to say I'm sorry, for those people who are experiencing it. But these are for people who've never experienced that. Someone commits suicide very close to them. And it's kind of crazy to even imagine the ability someone has to take their own life. I mean, just to even think about that, you doing that yourself, just imagine. Even if you're one of those people like, I want to do that shit, I'm going to do it one day. Don't even think about it, dude. Because one day, somebody else is going to do that. And it's going to be a terrible story. And it could be somebody else's kid, someone's grandkid, someone's elderly grandfather or grandmother, a father, a mother, your best friend, whatever. Somebody you know is going through problems, or somebody you kind of know, and they're going to kill themselves. And it's going to be kind of fucked, that happening. I mean, some people do it out of their situation, because they just can't take it anymore. Like going in prison. A lot of people commit suicide in prison too, right? And they just can't stand being in there, right? Being inside there, it's kind of scary, right? But just the thought that somebody else goes through that, and it's like the thought of that going through that is like they literally, that whole action was just the only thing they led to do at that very moment. It just literally broke their thinking process in half, and that was like the fucking only thing that they did, right? Which obviously, when you get to that point, you've tried a couple times to take your life. I'm just putting that out there. It's typically, statistically, most of the time people who actually successfully committed suicide have attempted committed suicide before. Now, it's crazy to think about, but sometimes people who are depressed, I'm raising my hand, and me, myself, and all the other people of the world who have mental issues, right? These are things that we deal with, diseases that people deal with, such like people who deal with arthritis, people who deal with pain, people who deal with, disabilities, people who deal with long-term illnesses, whatever it may be. We learn to live with those things, right? And there comes a point where there's some of us, some people out in this world, actually feel like taking their life is the only option that they have. And it's like there's like 10 different layers in your brain, and then finally it cracks into that core, and you're done. Now I want people to think about their core, and when anything gets to the 10th, gets the 9th layer, the last layer protecting your core, just remember that 9 life is like your last hope, and that thing is like the goalie. That thing is like the protector, the guard of that shell, man. It's like the 9th layer covering the 10th core is like who you truly are. You know what I'm saying? And that second layer that's covering that is like what you're striving to become. And then like the other layer after that is probably like your family and friends. And the next layer and so on is like, just that outer shell is just that outer person you try to be, It's tough. I truly think it's tough for us to, be, people are overworked, they get really sad, they get mundane lives, they're doing the same shit over and over again, they're not happy with their partners, whatever the fucking case may be for a lot of people. We get broken down little by little, and some of us take a long time to repair or even change, because sometimes we need to change in order to be better. And I just want people to just ponder on that, like when people take their lives, those are the people that unfortunately it cracked them to the core of who they truly were. It just left them no choice. And they were just so fucking sad that they just couldn't take it. And I don't care what anybody says, that shit is sad. I've had an uncle in my family who has done that, committed suicide. I've had a cousin who's done that and attempted to commit suicide twice. And it's not good. It's really not good. And I want people to remember that. Keep that in mind, that people have some tough shit out there. And, You know, when you feel like people are like, fuck man, I can't take this shit anymore. And you care about that person, help them out, you know? Help that person out. Give them a little pat on the back. Be like, bro, you got this shit, man. Don't worry about it. Don't trip. You know? And just be a little positive about your situation, and, you know, little by little things will get moving. So just call it like it is. And say things for what they really are and what you're truly trying to be, you know? Because shit's tough in the world, you know? And people are trying to make something of themselves. And every time we drive through work and, you know, to work, or, you know, we're at work, or we're just fucking walking out of the gas station to get a popsicle or some shit, or we're in the car picking our nose or on the phone, whatever it may be, people see you at some point and they stare at your eyes. And sometimes, you know, you can stare at a homeless person and be really fucking sad for that person, right? Or someone could stare at you and for some reason feel sad for you because you looked sad at that very moment. And you can be sad for yourself, and nobody can be sad for you sometimes. Whatever your thoughts may be, don't let that shit be the one thing that controls you. Understand that a lot of people out there are pretty fucking unhappy. And a lot of people out there are trying to make the best of themselves and trying to make the best of their situation. Not a lot of people have amazing lives like social media and, you know, newspapers say, right? Not a lot of people make tons and tons and tons of money, right? We have to work every day, and that's what separates us from the 1% to whatever. But the reality of the matter is, we're not all beautiful, we're not all fucking rich inside, we're not all glorious, and we're all trying to struggle and get to some place. And some of us got there a little quicker than the rest, and while other people feel like they're behind, they're trying to catch up. So when you see somebody a little fucking sad, man, I'm telling you, just give them a little pat on the back. Just be like, you got it, bro. This is from the Just Call It podcast. You got it. You got it, bro. Because shit's fucked up out there, man. It's hard out there for a pimp when you're trying to make money for the rent. That's from Hustle and Flow, baby. It's a good ass movie. Go check that out. That's my recommended movie for the weekend. This is the Thursday night podcast. For your weekend, I recommend 2 movies for you guys to watch. And that is for you guys to watch Hustle and Flow. That's a great ass movie. Look it up. I think it was made sometime in the 2000s to 2010. I could be wrong, but it doesn't matter. That's a great movie. Go check that out. I forget who stars in that movie. Another movie that you guys should watch, and I'm trying to think of it right now, is never mind. I'm just going to use my go-to. Watch Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction, 1992 or something like that movie, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Fucking great movie. Watch that with your gal, because you guys, you know, couldn't celebrate Valentine's on Tuesday. And you guys are like, oh, baby, this weekend, it's President's Day. We're going to go on a 3-day Valentine's Day. Woo! You know, you and your girl, you and your partner, going to go out, you know, do a little groove, little cha-cha, little waist twist, little wave in the waist. You know what I'm saying? Try to stretch them legs out. Watch your back now. Take care of yourselves. Be real. Don't give a fuck. And fuck everybody else. This is the Just Call It podcast. He told me not to cuss, but I say F that. Thank you.